It's just Stats. Reggie Johnson, Eugene Morton, coming to you from lovely city of Atlanta, Georgia. And Eugene, we have some pretty big news here with the Boston Celtics coming down relatively close to the time that we were recording the show. Now, what's interesting about this, and that was the sale of the Boston Celtics. There's a couple of tidbits about this that are pretty interesting from a sports standpoint. But I never knew they were for sale. Is that something that I didn't know is that something that's been getting kicked around for a while? Do you know?
Yeah, I think it kind of happened shortly after they won the championship, or I think it was kind of talked about during the championship. I just kind of heard about it, but it's one of those things that was like, okay, if it happens, I just, yeah, like you, I think I heard it in passing, and then I remember when you told me, oh, that's right, they were for sale, but it was like, it wasn't like on the top of my radar of being for sale.
Yeah, it's interesting because they just broke the record for the for sales in North American team sports. It says the price, which I think was $6.1 billion, would and that was by Bill Chisholm, a managing partner of Symphony Technology Group. And that price would surpass the $6.05 billion that Josh Harris paid for the NFL Washington Commanders in 2023. And it surpassed it surpassed that amount and easily surpassed the NBA record, which is $4 billion for the Phoenix Suns. Was the NBA record.
Okay.
So it's interesting because, for one, this is just another indication to me that the NBA isn't as dead as people say it is. And I'm thinking of the Boston Celtics especially, because I'm thinking, for a team or for a sport where people are like, the fans are running away, people aren't really watching the NBA. You got two guys on this team making $500 million.
Yep.
Two guys. The money's coming from somewhere, Eugene. Somebody's watching, right? I mean, you got literally two human beings making $500 million on this team. So the money's coming from somewhere. I'm not sure if they're maybe tuning in other places. I'm not sure who's tuning in that we're not counting, but somebody's watching the NBA, Eugene.
Right.
What's interesting is to see what would the other teams, what would, like, if the Warriors were on sale, if the Knicks were on sale, what would those teams go for, man? Because I don't know if the Celtics were ever listed as being the top team available. If a team like the Lakers or somebody went on sale, man, you're approaching what, $7-8 billion? What are you looking at for teams like those, right?
Yeah,
those Warrior teams.
Probably going to get like in the north to, like you said, maybe the 8 to 10 million or billion. Sorry, yeah, because they're top tier franchises, And to your point, yeah, and plus basketball, it's the ratings have been slipping here, but globally, it's still one of the most famous sports. It's still recognized around the world, so everyone plays it. It's still recognized as a global entity. So, and the Celtics, they're one of those top franchises. So I wasn't surprised by that number when I heard it. I was like, oh, that's not surprising when I heard that number at all.
It's interesting because that's 50% more than when Matt Ishbia bought the Phoenix Suns, and that was only 2 years ago.
Right.
So that's crazy. 50% more 2 years later.
Yeah, and plus, it's like it's not like in Boston. It's not like the only thing to do there. They've got other pretty other winning franchises there. So it's not like they're up against other things. When Phoenix, it's like not a lot to do with Phoenix. I know you got like hockey team and you got a football team, but there's not a lot going on there.
Well, it's definitely a smaller market team than Boston is, and I'd imagine a lot of these larger market teams, especially the legendary ones like your Boston Celtics legendary franchise, is going to go for a little bit more as well. It's interesting looking at the payroll because it's like you take that team on, and then you also take on that payroll, and it's enormous. It's enormous, man. You got 1, 2, 3 guys making us. So Derek White making over 100 million. Jason Tatum making over 250, closer to 280, and Jaylen Brown making over 280. That's only 3 guys right there. So I've got you to almost $700 billion in totality of contracts with 3 guys.
Yeah. I was just looking up. So the salary cap for is 140 million, 145.88 for this year. and they are currently at 193. I'm just going to round it at 193,337. That's their payroll this year, and it's going to be 225, 515 next year. So it'll be interesting to see when those owners come in and go, and to see. I'm interested to see where they go in the kind of playoffs this year. If they win in the championship, if they go maybe the East Finals and maybe they get bounced, or maybe they get bounced early round, and what the ownership does at that point, goes, well, we already have a championship, but we don't want to be this far over the luxury tax, and you're over. I think you're clearly over the second apron, so you can't really do that. Limits what you can do in free agency. So I'm kind of curious of what they're gonna, how long these two guys are gonna be together.
This ship's pretty much in the middle of the table, right? You're just running it. You're super win now mode. This is the epitome of win now roster.
Right. And I don't know if you have two, because we always know this. New owners come in, have that.
Yeah, we saw what just happened in Dallas. Are they going to trade Jason Tatum in the middle of the night? You're going to wake up and see Jason Tatum's been sent somewhere, right? But it's interesting because it also showed me that this wasn't a detraction for anybody to purchase the team. So
no,
it's to show you how well-heeled these people are, and how attractive the Boston Celtics still were, which is a testament to the Celtics, and I think to the NBA in general, to still have a franchise that has a payroll of this sort of this amount of money, and still have people bidding to purchase it. So I think that's pretty interesting, man.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, it's always going to be an attractive franchise, and let's just face it, they have the most. If you go to Boston, if you go to their Boston Garden, you look up there, they have the most. There's just no. They always
hang banners there.
Winners. Now have NBA. We just want one. I just want one. Can I just get one here in the Hawks?
Right. We want to hang one in Atlanta. It would be very nice.
Right. So they're always going to be, whatever they do with the roster, they always seem to have really just smart people on the inside, from the GM to the coaching, just the whole staff. And they just know, hey, even if they, let's say, take a lump for a year or two, they're always going to be a winning franchise. They always seem to put the right people in the right places and always produce. So I'm just curious, but my curiosity would be what does this ownership do if let's just say that they get bounced early? Do you start kind of, like you said, does two people get traded in the middle of the night type of deal, or do they kind of run it back with that payroll just because it's jumping up so high next year? So
is it a cautionary tale, you think, Eugene, for tinkering with teams when people look at what happened in Dallas? You think the ownership's looking at what's going on in Dallas, like, man, you see with the ownership seem to have royally screwed that city.
Yeah.
This is cautionary tale, man. That's not the direction we're going to go in. Like, we buy our team, we're not going in that direction.
Right. But I mean, at least with that scenario, I mean, you have two guys, right? You have.
Yeah. It's not just you're trading your guy. You're not just trading a guy, right?
You're trading a guy. So, and we just see. Look at Ishbia. Look at that Suns team. They have. I think I can't remember last time. I don't think they have a draft pick for like at least the next decade, right? A first round draft pick.
Suns went all in, man. Suns went all in, and then when you bring a player in like a Kevin Durant, you got to trade your depth to bring him in. It's a tough situation. You need to be a Warriors type team for that, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll never until a new owner proves me wrong. Then I'm gonna have to wait. I mean, it's just gone back. You just gotta go. Okay. I mean, I know Cat getting traded. I get it. I mean, I know why you had to move him, but I get it because you signed Gobert. You kind of.
I knew that. I just felt like with that, I felt like you signed Gobert because Cat was there. You see what I'm saying? Like sometimes to me, when you sign these guys and you put these teams together, it's like, okay, I signed Gobert and pay Gobert the money because I have Cat and Ant here. You know what I mean? If you pay the guys the money, you sign a guy, but you got to send away one of those key pieces that was on that team when you got there. It's not the same team. You're not coming into the same place. You are now having to try to replace. You lost some offense with Cat. You can't replace that with Gobert.
No, no, you can't. And then it's like, but again, new owner syndrome, right? It happens. So if they shock me and they just run this team back and they just keep keep paying the luxury tax, whatever, for the next couple of years, I'll tip my hat. And I'm not saying it would be a bad move for them to go, you know what? Hey, we're
Maybe
just
the
gonna make
next few years. What about that, Eugene? What if they
yeah.
pay it for like the next 3
I
years,
think it's
2 to
next 3
3
years.
years?
Yeah, I can see that. But I mean, I don't know, man. Here's the thing: you're an owner, and I just paid $6 billion for a team.
Yeah, man.
And do I want to start shelling out extra money for luxury tax? I don't know. I kind of want to see maybe make a little money back off my investment first, and then go into the red. So I'm just curious. We'll see. New owners have proved us right all along here, so we'll see if these new owners for the Celtics are going to be any different.
Oh, for the fan base there, they're not the disaster that's in Dallas right now.
No,
It's kind of harder to be worse than what's going on there, though.
right?
So it's you got a little bit of a blueprint of what not to do.
Exactly. They got the
What's
cherry.
interesting here, yeah, absolutely. So now you can just look down at the South at what every move not to make, and
Right.
they'll be okay. Going to the NFL, we got our boy Jamar Chase that we knew was going to happen here. We knew this was going to happen. No, it was interesting with the Bengals. The Bengals don't spend money. So it's interesting here that the Bengals decided they say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and go out here and guarantee money that's not just in the first year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So basically, they're going to give more than a 1-year deal. That's how much they believe in your boy, Jamar. Then they gave him he was 73.9, was at 73.9 fully guaranteed at signing, 41.17 in base salary, a roster bonus and a per game roster bonus for 2025, and 32.73 million in base salary, any roster bonus for 2026. Brings his 2-year total 75 million with another 1.1 million in per game roster bonuses for 26, not fully guaranteed until next March. All right. So, and it says in March 26, those roster bonuses plus 28.9 million of his money for 27 would become fully guaranteed in March of 26. So it's kind of like a 2-year deal, and then it's kind of like it's a 2-year. Now, with his talent and his age, you could see this going the 3rd, 4th year. Right now, you can see it going to 3rd, 4th year with where his age and talent is. I would also say that when Kupp re-signed his deal with the Rams, we also felt that he was probably going to play out a decent portion of that deal, but that deal, I don't know if it ended up being that great for the Rams end of the day. And I think Chase, if I want to say, I got to look at his injury history. I'm going to say, does Chase stay healthier than Kupp on it? I know he just seems like a better receiver, man. I'll tell you that. I think Chase is a better receiver than Cooper Kupp, man. I think he is. I think he's more consistent. He's a more consistent receiver, if I'm not mistaken. Because remember, we had Cooper Kupp had those 2 years over 1,000, where I was thinking, like, man, he just seems like a better receiver than that. When you're looking at Jamar Chase, every year he's been in the league has been over 1,000.
Over 1,000.
So it's very different situation. He's already got 2 more years over 1,000 than Cooper does already now.
Yeah, and the only time he didn't play 17 games was 2022. He played 12. Everyone's been 17, and it said 2023 he'll play 16 games. Well, that's probably, I think that last year was the year where Burrow was out, so he probably didn't play the last game, so I don't even count that. And this past year he played 17 games and started 16. So there you go. I think you're fine to give him that money. He's kind of proven he's a workhorse to stay on the field. So I don't have an issue with that.
Me neither. There's certain we know how I am about these signings, man, and teams paying guys a ton of money and stuff like that. I feel like, hey, you can't really. With some teams, I feel like you don't really have your team together to pay a guy this percentage of your cap, because he's not going to affect that percentage of your winning. And I think we had talked about that. I think with Myles Garrett and Cleveland Browns last week, where I was like, you're paying a percentage of your cap that, no, it's not even a specific to Myles Garrett. It's just that the position itself doesn't affect the percentage of winning of the amount of money that you just paid.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's kind of like you're going to have everything else go right for you, which is very possible. It's not over for any of these teams that pay guys a lot of money. You got to see how the draft plays out and see if they were really smart down the line and things kind of line up for them. But then when you are paying guys that kind of money, you need it to line up for you. Now you have to have it line up for you, because if it doesn't line up for you, if the chips don't fall, You don't have the resources. This isn't the NBA, man. There's no first, second apron in the NFL. You got to figure it out, right?
Yeah, that's it. And teams do that. They tie a lot of it in bonuses or guarantee it. So I mean,
Yeah, they get creative, man, for sure,
yeah,
right?
yeah, we see them do it. That's why I don't get too alarmed. Like, oh, he made 40 million. It's 46 million guarantee or this or we see so many teams do or extend or rework a contract or put more. It's just when I see numbers like this, I don't freak out because I look at this as the opposite, like you said, the Myles Garrett deal. This guy's on the field. He's on the field all the time, and he's an impact player. I'm not saying Myles Garrett isn't, but he's
Yeah, I
he
think
always
Miles is an impact player. I just feel like the Cincinnati Bengals are a better team equipped for like when you look at the piece that what they're paying for, the fact that it's accentuating kind of their quarterback.
yeah.
I do feel like, and it's kind of more in the wheelhouse of what guys because when Myles Garrett's contract was the highest contract ever paid to a non-quarterback.
Yeah.
If you're gonna give up anybody on your team the highest contract ever paid to a non-quarterback, I would hope you have a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like I would hope you at least have that position taken care of, and they don't have that position taken care of as of now. So that's what
No.
made me think they're probably going to try to address it in the draft or something because it has not been addressed now. I mean, not unless you think Deshaun Watson really is the answer there. Which I don't know why you would think that.
Yeah. And who knows if he even touches the field that next year with the Achilles injury, right? So even
It would
that's
be ended to the season. It wouldn't be
right.
like week 1.
Yeah. Right. It's not going to be like, it's going to be like maybe, it's going to be later on. So, and yeah, that'll be interesting altogether. We'll see what they do.
Well, the Bengals situation is pretty. I just think it's a pretty good situation because the team that's already had prosperity. They've already been to Super Bowls. You see what I'm saying? Like they're a team that's not. I use the trailer park analogy with the Myles Garrett situation as Cleveland Browns being the trailer park and Myles Garrett being the Porsche that's
Oh,
parked out front with Cleveland. But that's not the case with the Bengals. They've had success. They didn't make the playoffs last year, but they've been in the Super Bowl with the same roster that they paid. And that's another reason, too. If you're going to pay a guy this kind of money, and this is why I can't really knock the Rams. If you're going to pay a guy this kind of money, at least you need to have had the kind of success that you want to have in the future, in the past with that player. So if you have not been to Super Bowl, like they've been to Super Bowl with Cooper Kupp, and he was productive in the Super Bowl, he got paid.
right.
All right. So you saw that as presently constructed, you were able to go and win a Super Bowl. The Bengals, as presently constructed, saw that they were able to go to Super Bowl with these same exact individuals that they were just paid. They were able to go to the Super Bowl with these same guys, right?
Right.
What the Browns have not seen is that they've been able to have a long-lasting success with Myles Garrett, even being the defensive player of the year he is. He's been a stud.
Yeah.
Balling, right? Look at where it's got them. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. Look where it's already got you versus these other guys that are paying players that have literally got them to the promised land, have literally taken them to a Super Bowl.
Right.
It's very
right.
different realities.
Yeah, absolutely.
that we're dealing with two different teams here. And it's interesting because they didn't just get it done for your boy Jamar. They got it done for T. Higgins here as well. Now, what's interesting here is T. Higgins also has money guaranteed beyond year 1.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see. Let's pull that up here. But it's significantly less, though. Significantly less. Because I think his is like 40 million pretty much guaranteed over 2 years. He has 30 million that's guaranteed at signing. Nice little check there. With 10.9 million guaranteed in 2026. So it looks to me like a $40 million 2-year deal is what it's looking like to me.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. So Chase got the 3 and he got the 2, basically.
Mm-hmm. So this is all, in my opinion. These guys send a little bit of money here to Joe Burrow because this is the team just being all in on Joe Burrow. Then they're just saying, "Hey, whatever he wants, man. Right, Joe? You want your guys, Joe? Yes. Here you go."
I mean, I think he should get a little percentage, maybe a little kickback. I mean, he was kind of campaigning for the 2 of those guys. I mean, throughout off season, you don't really see guys do that. It's like, oh, let it play out. He's like, no, they need to sign him. Like he was like pretty much saying that. You don't hear that from usually a quarterback. usually coming out. And he's like, no, he need to re-sign both these guys. And to their credit, he did it. Usually teams don't listen to their players, but he, I think they need to give him a little kickback there. Yeah, well, he was campaigning for both those guys all through the whole offseason.
Well, I think too with the T Higgins situation is he was holding out for a while, but he's been productive. And then when you look at teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Let's just look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. Philadelphia Eagles have shown us that you probably need two guys at wide receiver, man. You need a 1 and 1A. There shows you with Devontae Smith and AJ, right? AJ got there, changed. Devontae was there first. AJ gets there, changed fortunes for them instantaneously. Jalen Hurts looks like an MVP like as soon as AJ Brown gets there. So now they got two guys. Yeah. And Philly showed you that you probably gonna need a couple guys out here. They didn't waste no time. They locked down AJ Brown and Devontae. They took care of both of those guys and their quarterback. So the Bengals using a little bit of that model here, taking care of a couple guys here. It's interesting to see what will happen to players like Trey Hendrickson, who I thought they would definitely try to hold on to. I'm not sure exactly what his contract situation is, but I think they're going to need to probably try to hold on to like a pass rusher there, but we'll see.
They are, but it's like, where are you getting the money from at this point? That's the thing. You're running out of cap space really quick.
And they've already gone more than what they typically do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the
good thing is cap will go up next year. So, you can kind of maybe you, since you front load these contracts, maybe do a backload on his or something like that.
Well, Henderson's not up either. So now I'm seeing here that Henderson also has one more year. Henderson got a contract. So the coming season is the last season on Hendrickson's deal. Now, what's interesting is he had 17.5 sacks. Right. I don't know if I got to look at the Falcons entire roster.
I don't think we had anybody that got that. I don't think we had a team got 17 sacks.
We would have to combine, right? We would have to combine, guys. What's funny is that we signed Leonard Floyd. He had 8.5, 9 sacks, right? And some people were underwhelmed by it. And one of my friends had to come off the top rope and say, hey, man, that's more than we've got. That 8.5 or 9 is more than what we had last year.
Right.
We had no guy. We didn't even have a guy with that last year. So he's already bringing the top sack leader to the team with that 8.5.
We couldn't even pressure the quarterback last year. Let's get it down to even that. We couldn't even get pressures on the quarterback. So we were just happy with that. Little sack.
It's interesting to see where it will be, because 17.5 sacks is impressive, man. And it's hard pressed to believe that he has a season like that next year, and they don't find a way to get it done, right? You can't have a guy who has 17 sacks 2 years in a row, right? And let him walk out of there.
No. I think that's where I was misunderstanding. I know I think I read they were trying to extend him beyond this year. So
I think so. It's in their best interest to try to get a deal done. I got to look and see how old Trey is. I don't think he's a young guy like the receivers are, man. That'll probably play a factor in, but he's also great.
Oh yeah,
he's great. So it'll be interesting. It's crazy the underwhelming season they had with all the great pieces they have. They have a lot of great pieces. It'll be interesting to see how that really plays out over this next year. See them kind of get back on track.
Yeah, their defense just let them down all year. They were you saw the games, it was just almost like an NBA game. They had to go out there and score every single time. There was they can't take these downs off because we can't let our defense go back out there because they're not going to stop anybody. So that will be the thing. I think if I'm not mistaken, they did get rid of their defensive coordinator, but when teams like this, if you front all the money on the offense, well, you just got to be creative and get like the Buffalo Bills did for many years, where they'll just go out and they'll just go sign guys, minimum contracts, just have guys that, you can have just a bunch of guys get in and out, rotate a bunch of guys in and out. And that might be what you have to do with type teams that you have so much money on the offensive side of the ball. You might just have to do a lot of minimum contracts. Well, that guy had a moment 2 years ago on this team, and you just kind of sign those types of guys through to fill out your defensive roster.
It's kind of what the Falcons have been doing, man. And Trey Henderson is 30. I'm trying to lock that down. I'm trying to at least get him, have him on my team to about 32, 33, maybe.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
So we see he turns 31 in December.
Okay.
So I would try to at least, me personally, prime 2 to 3 year, man. Prime
Yes.
2 to 3 year there. If I am them. Interesting tidbit here. Your boy Cooper Kupp staying in the division, right?
Yeah.
Staying in the division, he moving around, and I think that his contract was about a $15 million contract, which I think is very fair.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely.
For
Yep.
what he is. He's at 31. That's very fair for what his production, I guess, has been. For what his production has been, very fair. So let's see here. It's a 3-year, $45 million. And I wonder what the guarantee is. Do they guarantee multiple years of this?
I
I
think when I
see a
saw the guarantee,
3-year.
yeah, it
Guaranteed to
was
sign. No, 35. They guaranteed 35 million.
okay. Yeah. So that's kind of where I
Wait.
thought.
No, that was LA. That was LA. I don't know. And
Oh,
that was that. My bad. My bad, guys. So I would need to look and see what the guarantee is. Maybe we can try to find what that guarantee is on his new contract. But I think that the 15 million per annual is pretty good, in my opinion. I don't think that's terrible by any means. What are your thoughts?
no. I'm looking at it right now. So it's a 3-year, 45 million. So yeah, I don't
And I don't
I'm
see
not.
any guarantees.
There's gotta be some guarantee.
What are they, man? Like,
Guaranteed at
is this
signing
a
was
1 year?
35. 35 was the guaranteed at signing.
So guarantee was the 35. Okay,
You
so
got it right.
basically
You
roughly
nailed it.
two-ish
2
years, then basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
I
Not
again, I think
terrible.
that's
31, man. It's
no,
not terrible for
no.
what he's being paid. It's not
You're right.
terrible
And
at
your
all.
ad, his salary right there where we kind of put it, 15 to 20 million, $15 million annual salary. So I think that's perfect, and he's going in, he's probably going to be your strong number 2, right? And he'll probably have games where he'll
Behind
look like number
JSN.
1. Yeah.
Yeah,
And look,
absolutely, absolutely.
now we don't have to have, nobody has to hold a gun to either head. So we know who the number 2 quarter or wide receiver is in Seattle now. We couldn't name
Mhm.
anybody else. Now we can name 2 wide receivers in there.
At least we got 2 that can be named on the team.
Right,
Absolutely.
exactly. So, I think it's fun. It gives Darnold another weapon, which he needed. So I like it, and he has a chance to and hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy, which has not been health has not been his strong suit these last few years. So hopefully going to Seattle in different plays. We've seen guys that can do that, go to a different atmosphere, different team, and all of a sudden they look better and they look stronger. And so hopefully, just have a good off season, take care of his body, and he'll come out strong for Seattle. So now I'm excited for him, and I always liked him. But it was funny, like you said, I thought he had more 1,000-yard seasons than when we looked up his stats. So yeah, I think he's a good receiver. I think he knows he's probably a number 2 at this point in his career, and I think he's fine with it. I'm fine with him going to Seattle.
Yeah, it's will be interesting to watch. They will definitely be an interesting watch there with things being shaken up over there in the West. Going to the world's most expensive backup QB with Kirk Cousins here, man, at the Falcons, and he's making a pretty penny. We just pretty much with the $10 million being guaranteed about a week-ish or so. That takes him to about 37.5-ish for a year, I want to say, which is the rest of the $100 million guarantee for the 2 years.
Yep.
I think I don't necessarily mind this because if you've already kind of paid it, you might as well have him on the team. You've already paid the money. I mean,
Right.
What's the point of cutting them and just letting them go? You know what I mean? At this point, you might as well just carry him. And me personally, I don't mind it. It's just at this point, I think he's just a better quarterback than Michael Penix at this point. So it's weird. It's weird to me because I felt when you put Michael Penix in, you can't take him back out.
Oh no,
in my opinion, because you got to make a decision. You got to make a decision. That being said, a lot to be desired from me so far on the Michael Penix side, and I was a Michael Penix truther. I wanted us to draft him, and I still am excited to see what he's going to do next year. But at this juncture, you do have a better guy, in my opinion, sitting down behind you. I don't know. I don't think he should be. I think Kirk should just go start somewhere. I don't know why Kirk would be sitting I wouldn't sit behind Penix if I'm Kirk.
Oh,
I just would
he
not
won't.
do it. I
Yeah,
would not.
he won't.
You know what I mean? Like I've got to go
Yeah.
sit somewhere. If I could even only remotely stomach this. If you were better than me, people here in the city, they think Penix will be better. They think he will, but he's not. Right at this second. So if
At
you're
the
Kirk,
second, right?
you can't. I couldn't go for that if I'm Kirk. I can't go for it. I can't go for sending somebody that I know I'm better than right now at this second, even though I know he's the future and I know my age and stuff like that. And I have my turnover issues. And I believe Kirk, even me saying all that to say that I still think Kirk is better right now. I do think Kirk has got one more year with this many turnovers, like, and it's over. Like if you have this many turnovers again, you are a backup quarterback, bro. You know what I mean? And it is over because you're not gonna be able to have as many turnovers as you had this past year.
Right.
Turnovers are a killer, guys, in any sport. They will get you benched. So that's not super surprising, but I think if he does rein those turnovers in and he does get to, people think that passing for 4,000 yards routinely is something that quarterbacks do. You need to go look up how many quarterbacks don't do that. Quarterbacks don't, you typically not just all the way passing for 4,000 yards. So the fact that he's at 3,500 with missing 3 games, I think it's going to be attractive to teams. It's going to be attractive. He would have hit probably 4,000 last year coming off an Achilles injury. So I think that's still attractive. I would definitely rather hold him than because we've already paid for it anyway. So we might as well just hold on to him. But if I'm him and if I'm the Falcons, just not wanting a guy that's disgruntled on the bench.
No.
I would try to move him to a team, see if a team picks it up. I'm hearing a third. Here we can get a third for him.
That's what I
are your
keep
thoughts
hearing
on that?
too. And I think it's smart. I think that what the Falcons are doing is he backed them in a corner, Kurt did, and was kind of like, and he kind of was like through the tea leaves. I kept hearing, he wasn't going to help us out on the trade market. And so the Falcons like, okay, well, we'll just pick up we'll just pay the $10 million roster bonus. We're not going to just release you so you can go play where you want to. I mean, it's just such a smart move.
I wonder what are the implications of that? Like if they release him and somebody's got to go because somebody's going to pay some of his contract. I guess that he would have been able to go where he wanted.
So all it is
control the negotiation.
It's kind of like what Russell Wilson did. He just took the minimum, and that minimum just comes off the guarantee. Well, whatever. So whatever, who had him so whatever team was paying him before. Oh, so Denver. I'm sorry. So Denver just paid the difference from the minimum. So that's all it is. So whatever. So he would just go sign. So he could just go sign the minimum everywhere because he's going to get paid by the Falcons regardless. So, but yeah, it's such a good move because the draft doesn't have a lot of quarterbacks. It's a lot of quarterbacks teams are going to talk themselves into, and we'll see. But I think you have that factor. You don't have a strong free agent market. You have Wash
one of
Russell.
The best years to be available, man. Right?
It really is. And then and you're right. He did have some good yardage, and then he's coming off the Achilles injury. So it's always
this was the first year coming off the Achilles injury.
It's
too,
the first
by the way.
year.
Like,
so you're coming the first year, right? So now he should technically be stronger the next year. So I think it's smart. I think it's he will not be in a Falcons uniform. I'd be surprised if it makes it to the draft. I mean, it kind of all depends. I mean, it could go past draft because we don't. It all kind of depends if Rodgers is going to sign or retire. So we keep waiting for that love triangle to end. And so, but you can get. I keep Cleveland makes the most sense because they can pay the minimum. I don't see Kenny Pickett being the guy. I just don't. And I that makes the most sense to me. They don't have to pay a lot of money. He can just come and make the minimum, and we're just on the hook for whatever the rest of that is. But I'm kind of proud of our team for just not just releasing him, letting him go where he wants, and go, okay, well, if you want to go somewhere, you got to kind of go to us too, because we're not going to just drop you. We're going to keep you on.
I don't think they should, man.
No, they shouldn't.
They should, because when I'm looking here, I'm looking here just at yardage. He's right behind. So if you look at yardage, Kirk Cousins is between Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had 35-33. Kirk Cousins had 35-08. Jordan Love had 34-72. Tua, of course, is injured, 2,900 and going on down. But when you look at this, when you look at that, the fact that Kirk missed 3 games, he would have jumped up this list. He's around 19 now on this list, missing games and coming off an Achilles first year. I think it's attractive. I think you should be able to move that, in my opinion. You should be able to move that. To me, that should be starting. That should be starting in the NFL. When I'm looking at some of the rest of these guys on this list, there's no way that he should not be, in my opinion. If I'm a team, I'm not letting that 3,500 to 4,000 yards sit on somebody's bench. There's no way I'm letting that happen. I'm going to go get them. But at the same time, maybe they're just waiting for the due diligence, like to kind of wait for everything to kind of play out. See if the Falcons blink, or you know what I mean? See if those conditions get better for them, negotiating wise.
See if someone gets a little more desperate.
Yeah, see if and some team is going to. And
yep.
If you are, you can, like, even the Steelers. I think the Steelers would be a good 3,000 to 4,000 yards, guys, at the quarterback position is what I would need. Give me that. I can work with it. I'm not saying I can win a championship, even though Jalen Hurts did win a championship. Well, I'm not saying I can win a championship with it, but I'm saying 3,000 to 4,000 yards, that's not going to be my problem. It ain't going to be at the quarterback position. And even when you look at the Falcons, we had kicking issues. We had defense issues. It wasn't Kirk. Kirk was 7-7 when he sat down. The same 7 games that Kirk won are the same 7 games we won the past 3 years when he was not here. So it's interesting to see how that really would all go. And now also create kind of does it create a rivalry? If Kirk goes somewhere, do we compare his yardage to Michael Penix? How does that go?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't think we should.
I don't think we should, because it's like, it's not really, I mean, it's not like Penix, it's not like compete each other, we all do going into the draft or after the draft. Cousins was starting. He was a starter. And just face it, that Raiders game, that was it. That was the nail in the coffin. He just looked awful. He didn't look good. And that was the game they were missing a lot of their defensive players, and it's like, that's the game he should have.
I don't even know if they had Max Crosby that game.
No, Max Crosby was injured that game. He was out. Yeah, he was out that game. So you lost their. That's the game where you tear it up. So, and again, I think, and again, he probably came back too soon from the Achilles, and I think he probably will have a good year next year. And you're right, Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense too. They've got 2 good receivers there for them, and they've got, and let's see what they do on the running back side. If they go get somebody in the draft or get anybody else through a free agency, they can run a lot, play action with him. So, and let's just, and Arthur Smith, not a good coach, but he's a good offensive coordinator. So, Pittsburgh would make a lot of sense as well.
I'd rather have Kirk than have Aaron
I know you would.
I would. I'll take it in a heartbeat, because at the end of the day, if they're just quarterbacks that people in their head would think, like, man, you think that, hey, this quarterback's really pretty good in your head, and Kirk tends to routinely have better yardage, better performances than a lot of these quarterbacks that people feel like are in their head are better than he is. He tends to come up and just show up. That's why he's made so much damn money, because people doubt him, so they don't want to pay him. And then they'd be forced to pay him in smaller increments and pay him more money per year in smaller increments, because they doubt him long term. And that's been the tell of the tape for him. And he goes up, puts up 4,000 yards, gets paid another $100 million. So it'll be interesting to see where he does that again next year. Any team, hey man, a lot of teams can use 3,000 to 4,000 yards. I'm just hoping that Penix can at least hold serve. And the only thing I really want Penix to do is to the only unacceptable stat for me is the completion percentage. That is going to have to go up. It is so unacceptable that I'm going to already say it's going to go up next year. I'm already going to say Michael Penix is not going to be a 50-something% passer next year. No. But I will tell you this. He has been a 50% passer. Yes, that's what we need. Yep. That's what we need, man. Just go into that workout. Let's give him the full offseason. Let's get that. Let's get that act. Because he wasn't. I got to look at his percentage in Washington. He wasn't 8. We wouldn't have drafted him 8th if he was passing at like 50-something%.
Oh no, he was killing it in Washington. And there's a couple early games too. When you watch him throw the ball, you could tell, like, oh, that's gonna fix, because he's gonna work with guys. Because there were some balls he was just missing guys, like just behind the passes or overthrowing. You can see, oh, That's just when they get on the same page. That's just once they, when guys start working together, they just get that flow. You can see that it's just you couldn't expect the guy to go, we're gonna you haven't touched this first round rep all year. Let's go
Right.
end the season or midway through the season. Let's throw you into the first first reps, and see what you can do. So I mean, he did exactly what kind of thought he did. He had the flashes. He's got the poise. He's got the arm, and he can scramble. And so we have to see. And
We do.
I feel better going in this next year. I'm glad we drafted him because God, look where if we didn't draft him and if we
didn't draft him though, I think that we would have had a better record this year. I think Kirk wins that Carolina game. So I think that we would have I think Kirk wins the Washington game. I think Kirk wins the Carolina game because he didn't win he didn't lose the Raiders game. And the thing is if Michael Penix wins those games,
he tried to lose that Raiders game. He tried to lose that game,
but he won. And at the end of the day, if I'm gonna say Michael Penix and he won those games, right? Let's say he wins the Giants game, and Kirk has had better stats than Michael Penix in almost every category except turnovers, and he wasn't struggling with beating bad teams. He just didn't look great beating bad teams. You know what I mean? But he still beat the bad teams. Kirk lost to some of the murderers rows of defenses. Those 3 weeks were the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Vikings in 3 weeks. So
yeah,
I will definitely give Penix the battle. I think Penix's best game, in my opinion, was a battle against with Jaden Daniels and Washington.
That game was amazing.
In my opinion, was Penix's best game. And when you look at the stats, it's not as good as people think it is. So when I try not to have my Homer hat on when dealing with these things. I try to be very pragmatic because at the end of the day, I'm all about what you actually do versus what I think you will do. And I hope that Penix does become better. But at this point, I don't have anything to go on. I would have to be pure eye test is what I would have to say. I would say pure eye test and belief.
Yeah.
It's
well,
all
Lisa,
I
tell you what,
to go on.
Yeah, Kirk put up the stats, but he never passed the eye test. That was the thing. It's like he didn't look like you could tell like there's moments like he held the ball too long. The Achilles wasn't.
He definitely didn't pass it in the Raiders game, my friend.
Right. Well, not even that. I'm just even before then, like just wasn't any zip on the ball. You could see it.
Well, when you look at some of the games, though, he had 300 yards. It's hard to say because I had a Kirk Cousins back and forth yesterday. Yeah. And looking at some of those games and having that Kirk Cousins back and forth with some Falcons fans, looking at those games, they were actually making there was a better argument for Kirk in some of those games than I thought myself looking back in some of those games. Because I didn't looking at the amount of times thrown for over 300. It's not as easy as people think, guys. It just isn't. And then when you look at 3 of those losses, he lost 7 games. But 3 of those losses, I don't think Penix would have won those games. I don't think Penix beats the Chargers. I don't think Penix beats the Vikings. And I don't think Penix beats the Broncos. I don't think he beats any of those teams.
Right. And so, I see what you're saying about even though the yardage, like he just didn't look like it still didn't look like, you didn't feel very confident in Kirk, even when he was going out for his game. At least when you saw
it's Penix, interesting, right? Because feeling confident in seeing worse shite. Like you see worse stuff on paper, but we feel more confident about it. And it is weird. That is absolutely weird to me because of at the end of the day, the end result is Kirk is going to easily be able to come out of here and say, I was 7-7, bro. I didn't have a losing record leaving here. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I
does have that.
I get it. That. So it's like the reality. It's like the eye test versus the reality of the situation. And the reality is the reality is I'm not seeing what I want to see yet. I'm hoping I see it, but I can't take it from the guy that's actually done it. You know what I mean? And Kirk actually did it, no matter how much what people say about him. You know what I mean? Like no matter how people want to explain it, you got a guy who's actually doing it. You know what I mean? And I don't think he loses against Carolina, man. I just don't. He beat Tampa Bay twice. He beat Philly in Philly. Like I don't think he loses to Carolina.
I don't know. Carolina was looking. They were looking strong. That Carolina team really turned around the last couple of weeks of the season. So I think
Bryce did. I think Bryce is looking a little bit better, right?
Bryce,
that'd be interesting to see if he takes that turn next year. But I do hope that we come into these next few years and Penix is legitimately able to substantiate some of the things that Falcons fans do say about him. And it's interesting finding myself kind of back and forth in these arguments, Eugene, because I'm a Michael Penix truther. I wanted us to draft him, even when people were not on that last year. They were like, "Why would we do not draft a quarterback? We don't need a quarterback." I was like, "No, we're drafting 8th. Penix is, if he's there, I think we should take him." Blah 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 blah. So I had that back and forth last year, and now it's kind of like I'm pumping the Penix brakes a little bit here, man. You know what I mean? Like, because I was talking to some guys yesterday, man. He's John Elway already, man. They're ready. They already put him there, man. He's already there for them, man. And I'm like, this guy literally passed for less than 800. He hasn't paid. He's paid 775. 300 of those came in one game. Let's just relax. He's 3-3, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Just relax. Let's just relax. You know what I mean? Because on paper, he hasn't done anything. So let's just relax and wait for him to do something. And then let's celebrate what he actually does. When he actually does something, we celebrate. You know what I mean? But I feel like fans, Eugene, fanatics, you know how fandom is, man.
Oh, that's why
we're excited at the draft. Right? We're excited then, man. We've already envisioned with some of these players, they draft them. You envision 4,000 or 5,000 yards for these players. Like,
yeah, I just think people we got excited because you're right. The stats didn't match what was on the eye test. Was better than the stats. That I think that's what people got excited for.
Yeah, because the eye test looks better than Kirk. The stats are worse. They're just worse.
They are, but it's like, but if you watched it, you saw the glimpses, and I think that's what people are really excited for. And I'm with you. Let's wait. Let's pump the brakes. But I'm optimistic. I'm always going to be half glass full kind of person. So
the hope springs eternal.
But yeah,
right? Hope springs eternal,
I think,
man.
Yeah, right. But again, I'm like you. I am realistic as well. Because we've seen this. As we are Falcons fans, we know how this can go, right? We know how this can go. You know what I mean? It's not like we're not Green Bay guys. We're not just nailing the quarterback position time after time after time here. We got Matt Ryan, our best quarterback in the history of the Falcons. We just had that guy. You know what I mean? We just had him. Look how long
it took years ago.
Atlanta to accept
you know what
him.
I mean? So it's like that's the best guy we ever had. We're treating these situations as if we just nail these positions, or we just know that the next guy is the heir apparent, right? As soon as we draft him, he's the guy,
right?
So I'm hoping that Penix is the guy, but I'm not full of so much hopium that I'm just gonna hope stats into him. You know what I mean? I'm going to need to see the guy come out here and perform, and
that's completely fair.
And I
completely fair.
Think he will. I think he will, though. I really do. This is Just Stats. Check this out. Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. See you next time, ladies and gents.